Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone. How many years of your life have you spent being available for everyone except yourself? Let that question sit with you for a moment. Don't answer it out loud. Just feel it. Because if you're watching this today, if something in you paused when you saw this video, I want you to know something deeply and with absolute certainty. You did not end up here by accident. Something inside you, something wise and ancient and unbreakable, brought you to this exact moment because a part of you is ready to stop apologizing for existing, ready to stop shrinking so others can feel comfortable, ready finally to build the most sacred thing a woman can ever build in this lifetime. A boundary. You are a woman who has spent decades, perhaps your entire adult life, being the one who holds things together. You were the mother who stayed up through fevers and nightmares, the daughter who drove 3 hours to care for aging parents, the friend who always picked up the phone, the wife, the colleague, the neighbor, the volunteer. You gave, and you gave, and you gave some more. And somewhere along the way, quietly, almost invisibly, you began to disappear, not physically. You were still there, still showing up, still being needed. But something essential inside you, your voice, your desires, your sense of self, began to whisper instead of speak. And then it nearly went silent. I need you to hear me say this with everything I have. That was never strength. That was survival, and you are done merely surviving. Today, we are going to do something together that may feel uncomfortable, even revolutionary. We are going to talk about boundaries, not as cold, harsh walls that keep people out, but as the most loving, courageous, healing act of self-respect you will ever perform. Psychological research tells us something that I want you to write on your heart today. Women who establish and maintain firm personal boundaries live longer, report higher happiness, experience less depression, and describe their relationships as more fulfilling. Not because they love less, but because they love from a place of wholeness rather than depletion. You deserve wholeness. We deserve wholeness. Let me take you back. Not to cause pain, but to create understanding. Because healing always begins with understanding. Most of us, particularly women of our generation, were not raised with the language of boundaries. We were raised with the language of sacrifice. Good girls don't make waves. Don't be difficult. Think about how they feel. You're so selfish when you put yourself first. These messages, heard in childhood, reinforced in marriage, echoed in culture, they didn't just shape our behavior. They rewired our psychology. They convinced many of us at a cellular level that our needs were an inconvenience, that our boundaries were selfishness wearing a pretty dress. And here is where psychology enters the room. There is a concept in psychology called the fawn response. You've heard of fight, flight, and freeze, the ways we respond to threat or danger. But fawn is the one we don't talk about enough. Fawning is when, in order to keep the peace and stay safe, we become agreeable, we become compliant. We shape ourselves to fit the emotion of whoever is in the room, even when it costs us everything. Does that sound familiar? Did you just feel something shift in your chest? That shift is recognition. And recognition is the beginning of liberation. The fawn response was not a character flaw. It was not weakness. It was wisdom in disguise, a strategy that kept many of us emotionally and sometimes physically safe in environments that did not honor us. You were doing the best you could with what you had, but you are not in survival mode anymore. And the strategies of survival do not serve the woman who is now choosing to thrive. There is also what psychologists call enmeshment, a beautiful but painful pattern where the line between your needs and the needs of others becomes so blurred, you genuinely can't tell where they end and you begin. You feel their anxiety as your own. Their disappointment lands in your body like a physical blow. Their unhappiness becomes your emergency. And for some of us, this has been our operating system for 40, 50, even 60 years. I want to give you a new definition today. Not the clinical one. Not the cold textbook version. A definition that lives in your body. A boundary is simply this. It is the distance at which you can love someone and still love yourself. Read that again. The distance at which you can love someone and still love yourself. It is not rejection. It is not punishment. It is not cruelty. A boundary is a sanctuary, a quiet, sacred space around your soul that says, I will love you generously, but I will not lose myself in loving you. And here is the profound psychological truth that I need you to carry with you for the rest of your days. The people who honor your boundaries are the people who actually love you. The people who punish you for having them were never really there for you. They were there for what you could give them. Let me say that once more. The people who punish you for having boundaries were never there for you. They were there for your compliance. Now, what do boundaries actually look like in real life? Because theory is beautiful, but we are practical women. We've lived. We need tools. A boundary looks like saying, I love you. And I can't take that call after 9 p.m. anymore. It looks like I won't be able to attend that event. And I don't owe you an explanation beyond that. It looks like I've noticed that when we speak about this topic, I leave feeling diminished. I'm choosing not to engage with it anymore. It looks like no. Simply, cleanly, and without the paragraph of apologetic justification, we were trained to attach to that word, no, 2 letters, 1 syllable, may be the most healing word in the English language for women of our generation. No. No is a complete sentence. No is an act of self-love. No is a spiritual practice. Now I need to speak to something that every woman in this journey encounters, something that shows up the moment you begin to honor yourself. Guilt. Oh, the guilt. It comes dressed in so many costumes. Sometimes it sounds like your mother's voice. Sometimes your own. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet, creeping question in the dark of night. Am I being selfish? Am I being unkind? Have I become someone I don't recognize? And here is what I want you to know, what I want you to anchor yourself to in those moments. Guilt is a messenger, not a verdict. When we have spent decades putting everyone else first, the first time we establish a boundary, our nervous system, trained for so long in the patterns of people pleasing, will sound an alarm. It will say, "This is dangerous. You are causing harm. Fix this immediately." But that alarm is not the voice of truth. It is the echo of an old program that no longer serves you. Psychologists call this guilt versus shame. Guilt says, "I did something that goes against my values." Shame says, "I am something wrong." The guilt you feel when you establish a boundary, it is often not true guilt at all. It is conditioned shame, the residue of a culture and sometimes a family that taught you that having needs was the same as being bad. You are not bad, you are awake. And there is a profound difference. I also want to speak about the guilt we feel specifically toward our adult children. Because for many women in this season of life, the boundary that is hardest, the one that costs the most, is the one drawn with the children we love more than our own breath. Perhaps you've been the emotional caretaker of an adult child. Perhaps you've been a bank account, an emergency babysitter, a therapist, a punching bag, wearing each role with grace while quietly hemorrhaging yourself. Hear me, loving your children does not mean dissolving into them. In fact, and this is what developmental psychology teaches us consistently, the greatest gift you can give your adult children is the model of a woman who respects herself, a woman who is whole, a woman who draws from a full well. When you establish a boundary with your child, you are not abandoning them. You are teaching them. You are showing them what a healthy, dignified human life looks like. And that is the most profound gift of motherhood. Not the self-erasure, but the example. Let me give you something practical now, because wisdom without application is just beautiful words. And you deserve more than beautiful words. You deserve a changed life. I'm going to give you what I call the language of grace. These are boundary phrases, not scripts to memorize robotically, but seeds of language you can grow in your own voice, in your own timing, with your own warmth. When someone demands your time, you don't have "I care about you," and I'm not available for that right now. When someone crosses an emotional line, "I need to be honest with you," that comment was hurtful to me, and I'm asking you not to speak to me that way. When someone expects you to manage their emotions, I hear that you're struggling. I love you, and I'm not able to carry this with you in the way you're asking. Let's think together about who can really support you. When a family member guilts you for not attending something, I understand you're disappointed. My answer is still no, and I'm at peace with that. And perhaps most importantly, when someone pushes back, argues, escalates, when they say you've changed or used to be so much nicer, you're right. I have changed. I've learned to love myself. And that's made me a better woman to everyone in my life, including you. You are not responsible for other people's reactions to your boundaries. You are only responsible for delivering them with love. I want to speak now to something that goes even deeper than psychology, something that lives in the soul space of this conversation. For many of you watching, women of faith, women of deep spiritual life, the concept of boundaries has sometimes felt in conflict with what you believe. Perhaps you were taught that serving others is holy, that sacrifice is virtuous, that a good woman lays herself down. And I want to speak very tenderly to that belief because I honor it. I do not wish to dismantle what is sacred to you. I want only to offer you this. There is a difference between holy sacrifice and the chronic self-abandonment we were trained to call virtue. Jesus rested. He withdrew from the crowds. He went to the garden alone. The great mystics built their lives around silence, solitude, and the tending of their inner world, even in the most profound spiritual traditions in human history. Care of the self was never seen as the opposite of love for others. It was always seen as its foundation. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot pour grace from an empty vessel. You cannot love your neighbor as yourself. If you have never learned to love yourself first, establishing a boundary is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of stewardship. It is saying to the Creator, to the universe, to whatever you hold holy, I recognize that what lives inside me has value. I am going to protect it, not hoard it, but protect it so that I can offer it abundantly, freely, and from wholeness. I want to speak to you now about where you are in life, because there is something that happens for women in this season. 55, 60, 65, 70 that the younger world does not yet understand. Something that psychology calls postmenopausal zest. That quiet, powerful revolution that happens in the second half of a woman's life, when the biology that once bound her to the needs of others begins to recede, and something essential, something fierce and luminous rises in its place. This is not the end of your story. This is the chapter where you finally get to be the protagonist. All those years of wisdom, the heartbreaks you survived, the losses you carried with grace, the ways you showed up when it cost you everything, none of that was wasted. It was preparation. It was the formation of a woman who now knows exactly what matters, who no longer has time for what doesn't, who has earned the sacred right to say, enough giving myself away. It is time to come home to myself. Your boundaries are that home. Every time you honor a boundary, you are laying another stone in the foundation of your own sanctuary. You are building something no one can take from you. Not a relationship, not a crisis, not even the weight of other people's needs. You are building you. Before I leave you tonight, I want to ask you one more time, is there one woman in your life who is disappearing into everyone else's needs right now? Send her this video. Don't overthink it. Don't wonder if it's the right time. Just send it with love, because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do, the most boundary honoring, self-respecting, deeply human thing we can do is reach across the space between us and say to another woman, I see you. You matter. You are worth protecting. Close your eyes for a moment if you're able. May you find the courage today and every day to say the words that protect your peace. May you release with love and without guilt every relationship, every obligation, every old story that has asked you to disappear in order to belong. May you remember that you are not here to be consumed. You are here to be witnessed, cherished, and honored, beginning with yourself. May every boundary you draw from this day forward be drawn not in fear, not in anger, but in the deepest, most unshakable grace. And may you finally fully beautifully. Come home to the extraordinary woman who has been waiting for you all along. You are enough. You have always been enough. And you are just getting started.